Welcome back, everyone. Thank you so much for holding on. We've had some great conversations, fantastic questions, even I see conversation happening in the QA between attendees as well. It's brilliant. Please keep it happening. Really, really great stuff. So we just heard some great things around sustainability. We heard from Plastic Bank. We heard from Sonia. We talked about the sustainability and the benefits of the Vela bag. So really, really inspiring. Now is my pleasure to introduce Phil Archer. He is the Director of Web Solutions at GS1. He is our next speaker, and his expertise is all around web solutions and GS1, 2D, 3D, barcode, tech stuff. He's got some fantastic things to tell us, and we're going to be exploring that over drivers for change, but other potential factors influencing this massive shift. Phil, welcome to
Hello.
you. How are you?
All right, it's good to be here. Thank you very much indeed, Jan and Anna, for inviting me today. Thank you.
No problem at all. Before we get started, and I know you've got a great recording for us, and of course we've got live QA, so please, Phil is actually really here in real person.
Yes. But it avoids problems with connectivity and screen sharing, everything else. I just hand over to you and say, right, you play the video. Done.
Indeed. So we will be ready for that. But before we dive to that, just maybe tell us a quick interesting fact about yourself that not many people will know.
The problem with that question is it comes up quite a lot, and I've been doing this so long now that everyone knows my usual answer, so I had to try and think of a different one. So for today, given the focus of what we've been hearing about already today, I'll tell you that my oldest standing order goes back to April 1989. It's never been cancelled. It's gone up, it's gone down, but every month since 1989, I paid money to Greenpeace.
Well, very, very good. Fantastic. So that's your longest. So standing orders, a direct debit, right?
Direct debit, yeah. 34 years. I've done that now. Yeah.
Amazing. Well done. Good. Hopefully that will inspire, as will, I'm sure, your presentation that's coming up. I'm just going to hand over to the team who are going to share your presentation, and we'll see you back very shortly for some Q&A.
Indeed. Thanks.
Thanks, Phil.
First of all, thanks to Jen, Anna and the Appetite Creative team for inviting me here today. Yes, this is a recording, but I am here live and I can answer your questions in the chat now and afterwards verbally. We see QR codes everywhere, and I do mean everywhere. For some, they're evil, an entry to fake information, scams and viruses. Well, in general, that's not true, but you do need to be aware of the perception that it's true and provide clues that your QR codes are genuine. For others, QR codes are able to carry enormous amounts of data. This is not true. When faced with the need to provide more information than can fit on the label of a product, or a desire to interact with consumers, a lot of people think, I know, I'll add a QR code, job done. Well, up to a point. But what experience do you want consumers to have when they scan that code? And is it just for consumer scans? Or can it do more? It's big, it's ugly, and it needs to earn its place on that pack. So here's the question. What do QR codes actually do? Well, I'm sorry to break it to you, but QR codes don't do anything. They simply encode text. This one simply encodes the numbers 0 to 9. If you scan it, it's no different than me writing 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 and handing it to you on a piece of paper. And yet, if you scan this QR code with your phone, you'll be invited to add details of our office in Brussels to your contacts. If you visit our office in Brussels and you scan this QR code, you'll be connected to the guest Wi-Fi. And if you scan this QR code, you'll go to the standards page on the GS1 website. It's not the QR code that's doing this. It's the computer that the camera is attached to that is doing this, because the information in those QR codes, the text, is structured, and it's that structure that the computer recognizes, and it acts on it according to whatever the structure is. At the top here, that's the structure for providing Wi-Fi configuration details. This block of text in the middle, that's how you encode contact details. And you don't need me to tell you that the one at the bottom there is a URL. So if you're going to add a QR code to your product, be aware that what you're actually adding is a little bit of structured data, and you need to be clear what it is you want to achieve with that data. Now, at the Connected Packaging Summit, we're mostly concerned with consumer scanning and trying to get them to interact with us in some way and provide more information. Fine, but that's not the only driver at GS1. Our standards are used in a whole range of business processes throughout the supply chain, and the demand for things like traceability and sustainability information means that this old friend, I'm afraid, isn't enough anymore. We need more data in the barcode. We need to move from what is actually a 1970s symbol to the two-dimensional symbols of today. As well as that global trade item number, the GTIN, which you might know as an EAN or a UPC. We need things like batch numbers, expiry dates, and perhaps serial numbers, and it needs to be connected to the web. The digital product passport is coming very soon. E-labels for wine and spirits is here now. And it's important to provide recycling information. But is the first message you want to give to your consumers of your product information on how to get rid of it? Whatever goes onto a product needs to earn its place, especially if it's as ugly as a QR code. So, how about this? This is a GS1 Digital Link URI. It contains GS1 identifiers that can be read without an online lookup. I want to show you some of its features. First of all, it's on the brand owner's own domain name, not some other domain name, not a GS1 domain name, the brand owner's. The product says Del Giardino, the domain name says Del Giardino. So consumers can see that, and they're going to see it when they scan that, and they're going to see that correlation between the domain name and the product. That's going to give them confidence that this is the real deal. It's also got that GTIN, that barcode number. It's right there in that string of characters. And that structure is as precisely defined as how you put Wi-Fi configuration details or contact details in a QR code. And that's how scanners can increasingly recognize GS1 identifiers and pass them on exactly as they do today with the traditional one-dimensional barcodes. All the major scanner manufacturers are working on making that true in the very near future, and several have already done it. This video footage is from our test lab at the University of Memphis, where we've been testing different placements of the 1D barcode, the 2D barcodes, to see how they interact with each other. Should the QR code be next to the 1D? Should they be separated? Is there any deterioration in the scan speed? Spoiler alert, no there isn't. So your brand's domain name, your GS1 identifier, all in a QR code that consumers can scan. Now this one just has the GTIN, but you can add more. Batch numbers, for example, are really important for stock control and product recalls. Serial numbers that, among other things, help you keep in touch with your individual customer after the checkout went beep. Serial numbers are also good for things like deposit return schemes, so that you only return the deposit once. Expiry dates, right? Expiry dates are incredibly powerful. Include them in the barcode, and you can support dynamic pricing. As the expiry date approaches, you can reduce the price, and that can make a huge difference in the amount of product wastage. Metro, Germany's biggest supermarket, has been trialing this, and using that dynamic pricing method, they've reduced product wastage by 40%. If the expiry date has passed, your point of sale scanner can be programmed to refuse the sale altogether. Adding these elements to the QR code on the pack using GS1 Digital Link syntax has real business advantages beyond the consumer scan. And it's not just product identifiers. GS1's location identifiers, asset identifiers, serialized shipping codes, and more. They can all be included in a QR code and used just like any other GS1 barcode. For emphasis, these GS1 identifiers can be extracted without an online lookup. Your scanner won't fail if the internet goes down. But you'll have noticed something. It's quite important. It's also a URL. It's a URL. It's a URL. It's two things in one. It can provide or a pointer to more information about a product. It can point to promotions, usage instructions, a digital product passport, product certificates, reviews, you name it. It's both a bunch of GS1 identifiers that identify the product itself and a URL to take you to related online information. And that's a good thing because consumers are all different. This is Sophie and Nico. They've just had a baby. Now, they're really worried about all the stuff they keep having to buy for that baby. Is it recyclable? Is it biodegradable? That's their particular concern. This is Alice. She's celiac. When she's buying food, her one question, always one question, does this contain gluten? That's the only thing she wants to know. This is Roberto from Lisbon. He's on a visit to the Netherlands and he really wants product information, but he wants it in Portuguese, please. How can we help all these different people with one QR code and satisfy the business needs at the same time? If we can do everything with one code, we can save space on the pack for more important stuff like branding and designs and clever stuff like that. So here's the simple scan. QR code goes to a product information page. Big whoopee-doo, who cares how deeply unimpressive you've done that 100 times. But if we put a little service in the middle, we can do more. We can use a specialist app that understands GS Digital Link and say, I don't want the product information page, I want the sustainability information. Send me to the sustainability information. And that little service in the middle can redirect you to wherever the sustainability information may be. Maybe I do want the product information page, but I want it in Portuguese. Or maybe I'm building an app and I just want all the links to information associated with this product so I can offer my user the choice of what's available. GS1 Digital Link is the standard that covers all this. It's about making that bit of space on the pack work really hard and earn its place. One final thing to cover. This is a guy called Sung. He's responsible for supply chain operations for his particular line of products. He's actually the guy that GS1 talks to, right? The guy that puts the barcode on the product, the identification of the product. Behind him in the next cubicle, the guy in the tie, he's from marketing. And he's about to completely redesign the company website for a fantastic new campaign. And don't marketing people love to redesign websites? It's Sung, the supply chain guy, who puts the QR code on the pack, not marketing. Because that GS1 Digital Link QR code identifies the product, not any of the electronic information it links to. You redirect, you use basic web technology to redirect from the Digital Link QR code, the product identifier, to wherever marketing decides how you want to do it. And you can update that at any time, of course. So rather than using the brand's name, the brand owner's website, if you like, you set up what's called a subdomain. And we suggest ID dot, but it can in fact be anything. And it's logically separate from the brand's website. You don't have to argue between the identity people and the website people how things are going to work. So the supply chain people can manage that product identity without having to affect whatever the latest marketing campaign may be. And it means that you can pre-print all your packaging and you don't need to reprint every time there's a new marketing idea. Using that multiple redirection method I talked about just now, you can link to data APIs for business processes and more, all while still having that simple QR code with a scan for consumers without an app. This all sounds very geeky. Who the hell cares? Who on earth is going to do that? Show me a brand that's going to use this stuff. Okay, here are some. On the left here is a hang tag from CNA. The box at the top, that's a L'Oreal product. Chicken crackling, that's something you can buy here in the UK. On the right, that's a punnet of Australian strawberries. At the bottom there, with apologies to Italians everywhere, that's a pack of Brazilian mozzarella. It has the distinction of being the first product with a GS1 Digital Link QR code to go beep at a real checkout. October 2021 in Recife, northern Brazil. Puma is using it. This is a Procter & Gamble Gillette Intimate, don't ask. But check out the URL in that QR code. And finally, I'm delighted to be able to report the first major supermarket to order those new scanners that can read 2D at point of sale. It's Woolworths in Australia. That's the one I can mention. We are aware of others who are very close to or are ordering those new scanners, but I can't mention them by name. Woolworths I can. That's one of Australia's biggest supermarket chains. This is happening. This is real. How might it impact you? Well, a lot of connected packaging starts with a QR code. Using GS1 Digital Link in that QR code can, over time, and we're talking a fairly small number of years, replace that one-dimensional barcode. Your clients can print that GS1 Digital Link QR code now on their pack. Changing the pack, always a big deal. You don't want to do it unless you absolutely have to. And they can use it now for all your connected packaging services and exciting consumer experiences. And you're ready for this transition that is underway to allow that old one-dimensional barcode not to get rid of, not to die. We can't do that overnight. But we can perhaps get it ready for retirement, maybe in 2027. This document here is our best practices guide designed to help you and your clients, and of course those brands, to design the GS1 Digital Link URL in that QR code. There's loads more about GS1 Digital Link online, more videos, more documents, but thank you for your attention now. I'm happy to take your questions live. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Phil. That was great. Very, very nice presentation. And of course, you have no issues with any Wi-Fi. So that's all good there as well. So my first question is, you talked a lot around different drivers for change, but what would you kind of single out any major drivers for change over anything else, if that makes sense?
Well, the stuff I was just talking about there is part of the global migration to two-dimensional barcodes. So we, GS1, the barcode people, we've been doing barcodes for 50 years now. We are actively, on behalf of the industries that we support, trying to retire the barcode. It won't disappear completely, and it's because of those those business processes, the need for the batch number, the need for the expiry date, that more information that is necessary. And it's been driven by retailers wanting that information and the manufacturers. So the whole supply chain industry, really, from origin through to that final beep at the checkout and beyond. It's a whole range of factors. I talk about retail. I think that's the most important thing in this group today, but it's also relevant in healthcare, construction, all sorts of areas.
Definitely. And I think as well, you talked about all the different fruits and images that you put on there, apologizing to Italians and all of that. But in terms of, that's global. So we're not talking just about a UK chain. We're talking about a global chain. We're talking about retailers being involved in this chain, chain as well. So this is big. This is a massive impact. What do you think are the potential biggest implications for businesses and consumers?
Well, I suppose it's that ability to the whole community that you brought together here today is about connected packaging, making the packaging part of that media channel to communicate with people. But as you say, it's an ugly thing. Nobody really wants this horrible blocky thing on their package. There's the consumer demand is the other thing that's driving this. The demand from consumers that, as previous speakers have said, they want to know where it comes from, is it sustainable, and so on. And I think that in turn is driven by the fact that we all have these things in our hand. And if you ask me a factual question and I don't know the answer, I can tell you in 10 seconds. And we expect that of the things we buy and the places we go. We expect to be able to find information straight away without any delay. So those are part of it. So the change, to answer your actual question, is that consumers and business partners, because we work with business partners as well as consumers, will be able to find that information. Now, in some cases, it might be with restricted access, and some information is commercially sensitive, but I can still find it if I can log in and get there. So the change is, I suppose, that consumers, if we focus just on consumers, they already expect to be able to scan something and find information, and we're going to make that easier, and we're going to make it easier for the brands to be the people who provide that information.
Yeah. And I think as well, there's some great opportunities across different industry verticals as well. So, we talked about being able to get sustainable information from packaging. We just saw some examples from Sonia, how that might change. I think as well, there's lots of different things in terms of instructions, recipes, right across all industries. Is there any industry that wouldn't be impacted by this?
No. I suppose different industries do throw up slightly different challenges. Healthcare is one example of a highly regulated industry. Oil and gas is one we also have a footprint in as well. So that there's a different set of guide rails that you have to work within. Construction has the need for longevity. If you're putting up a building, that data really has to be available for the next 100 years. It isn't about you. I will not be alive in 100 years' time. So how can you put identifiers on things? How can you build an information system that you will be dead before it's finished its job? Now, you can't actually build something that's going to work beyond a few years' time, but you have to think long term about how it's done using standards like GS1, W3C, ISO, IETF. All these other standards bodies are important, so that there's no industry that isn't affected, but each industry will approach it from a different angle and have slightly different requirements.
Definitely. So I'm just looking at the comments. You've got lots and lots of compliments, so that's very nice. So I'll pass on lots of compliments there from Alan, and we can anonymous attendees as well. But diving into some of the questions, Aris asks about the middle technology that obviously you pointed out on the slide. Basically, the question is, this middle technology, can you detail a little bit more? Will this point users to a marketing campaign or to supply chain information? Will it be instructions from they say the computer in the phone? Tell us a little bit more.
I can. So that middle technology is called a resolver. We at GS1 Global Office offer a free resolver service, so we can link from the product to wherever. I think I'm right in saying that the community here is focused on the UK, so talk to GS1 UK. GS1 is actually a federation. I work for Global Office. GS1 UK is a separate organization based in Bishopsgate in London. So they have a service available to you, free, resilient, performant. But the software for that is available as open source software on GitHub. And it is the way it operates is itself defined in GS1 standard, the GS1 Digital Link standard that's currently going through a revision. So I'm just trying to find which I might put some links in. Let me put a link in the chat there, and you can edit if you want to, Hannah. So there's a GS1 standard that says this is how you do it. But actually, you know what? If you're a web technologist, it's actually really simple. The web does a lot of this stuff for you already. It's not particularly revolutionary. I am editor on a new ISO standard that isn't just a GS1 standard, it'll be an ISO standard, so it makes it a little bit easier to use. But that idea of going from one to many, that's kind of what the web does. So there's not much difference, but there is a GS1 standard, the GS1 Digital Link standard, and there is some open source software if you want to use it. And there are free services that we operate. We don't want to be the only one. We really, really, really want solution providers and brands to do this. So, yeah. You know, we want you to run the resolvers, not us. We will redirect our resolver to yours. So if your customer is our customer and the local branch of GS1 is involved, great. We can actually connect you all up to provide an ecosystem, a network of these things.
Absolutely, and that's why we're partners with GS1 as well, because obviously as their web technology connected packaging agency, those are the types of things that we're able to connect to, ensure
Right.
that it's GS1 compliant, we're able to access the resolver and actually be able to do so many different things. Charlie, and this leads into this, Charlie's just commented saying he's a digital nomad and he's dying for packaging that can translate labels. He's in Finland and translating ingredients on Google is brutal. When will this solution be widely available on packaging, and what are the impediments to do this? Well, the technology's there to be able to do it now, right?
Yes, it is. Automatic translation is getting easier, or is getting better. But the whole point is, I mean, again, there are things about the way the web works that you as a user don't. You're not aware of it, but it happens. So you're probably, but many people who aren't like me are not aware that every time you make a request to the internet, every time that you do it, it knows where you are, it knows what language you speak, and it knows what kind of device you're using. That is part of the request. When you, if I can use techie for a minute, when you dereference a URL, when you look up a URL in your browser, or you click a link, all that information goes with it. So your language preference goes with it. That's part of the information that's sent from you when you say, give me this URL. And so all you got to do, and this is actually really simple. If you're a web technologist, it really is simple to say, oh, you want it in Finnish. Here it is. That's web 1991, not 2023, 1991, we could do that.
The problem, I think, is brands actually realizing that they can do this and actually making it happen, because as you say, the technology's here. We do it. We run lots of different campaigns. We're going to hear from Tetra Pak next. We just ran a campaign for them in 23 different countries, 17 different languages, and it's exactly that. Identifying the browser language that that person is using and being able to deliver that experience to them in the appropriate language. So, Charlie, I'm afraid that you just have to wait for brands to catch up. And that's what we're all trying to do and educate.
Yeah.
So,
I should just say one thing, Jen. I did mention the specific GS1 resolver solution. That's one way of doing it. You do not have to link a GS1 Digital Link URI in a QR code to resolver. You can do whatever you like. If you have a service already that does the kind of things that Jen's talking about, do that. You don't have to use that service. It is entirely up to you.
No, both options are there. Samuel's asking how AI technologies support improvement of manufacturing cheap, sustainable, quality packaging. So AI technologies.
I don't know. Ask your local AI. I mean, type it in and see what you get. Sorry, AI does some really cool stuff. The best example being that using an AI system recently discovered a whole new class of antibiotics. That's fantastic. It also spits out garbage, and you've got to separate out the two and know which is right. I don't know the answer to your question. I hope there is a real prospect of an AI making a leap that a human being wouldn't and making a connection. That's what it does. Fantastic. But I can't give you a straight answer to your question. I'm sorry, I don't know.
Yeah, we're doing some fun things with AI, at the moment. So things like being able to determine what you might look like as your pet's parent. So uploading some photos of yourself and your pet and being able to see what that looks like. Yeah, we've got some fun things going on there. So, AI, we've got conversational things like that as well. But AI, I think there's a whole new world coming for us for that. Ian Schofield asks if you could print individual codes per pack, which of course you can using digital printing. Could you have private to say to the individual looking at the technology you should be able? I could probably answer that. The answer is yes. You can absolutely do that. We do offer that service at the moment as well. And the next session with Ali Azhar is going to be talking about different types of QR codes, serialized and unique QR codes. So that's absolutely possible to do.
There's only one kind of QR code. It's what you put in it that's different.
Absolutely.
And what it links to.
Absolutely. So yes is the answer there. But I have a question for you, Phil. How does this shift away from barcodes impact the compatibility with existing systems or infrastructure? I mean, that's a big question.
Yes, it is. And obviously that's a very important one. If you were to look at the number of information systems that different retailers around the world use, which vary from high-end SAP systems to pen and paper, then there's a huge variety. If, however, you look at the number of scanner manufacturers, people who actually build the core scanners that go beep at the checkout, there are approximately 5 companies. That's it. Datalogic, Zebra, Toshiba, Cognex, and I've forgotten 1 or 2, but there are very few of them. And because there's that bottleneck in the, well, that pinch point, and we literally know all of them, and they're all members of ours, and we talk to them. So I can say with confidence, they are all either already offering scanners that understand this. The output of the scanner is exactly the same as it is today with the 1D. That was an important part of the design process. So get an updated scanner and scan a GS1 Digital Link QR code. The output is exactly the same if it scanned the 1D. And there are only a handful of manufacturers that operate that, or that offer that hardware and firmware. So by doing that and making the output compatible, the number of systems that need to be updated around the world, or modified, whatever the word is, the correct one to use, is very small, and they're all on board.
So that means that Woolworths Australia have obviously ordered some new technology to be able to, implement this. Alan, we've just answered your question, so that's great. But that's Australia. You said there's some others moving somewhere. This is a global audience, not just UK. Anywhere, any country or continent that you could give us a heads up on?
It's a sackable offence, forgive me. All I can tell you is that the other 3 that I know about are all the obvious one in the countries where they operate. So if you're in Australia and I said, a major supermarket has already ordered these scanners, you would know I meant Woolworths. And the reason I can't even mention the countries is because it would be blindingly obvious which company I was talking about. So I'm sorry, I have to be very careful, but there are 3 of them, and at least 2 of them will be household names to everybody on this call.
Right. So this isn't just some weird thing happening in Australia.
No, it's not.
Major global change.
Yes.
With a leading supermarket. And I think you mentioned maybe by 2027 you expect there to be.
That's the ambition. Yes.
The retirement. We don't want to kill anything. Is that what you're saying?
Try not to. But the reality is, if you're talking about corner stores using a scanner that they inherited from someone else, in other words, this thing's 20 years old and it only reads stripy ones. Well, I'm sorry, then we have to still support that in some way. There are the fundamental technology, as I say, has been around since 1973. There's a lot of scanners to update. It isn't just the big ones at Woolworths.
Oh, absolutely. Well, thank you, Phil. We're come to the end of our time. Fantastic information, great presentation. Thank you. Really informative. I know that the audience has been enlightened and educated, as have I. So a big thank you to you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Don't go away. We have Aliazar, who is Associate Product Manager at Tetra Pak. He is going to be talking us through a session called Decoding the QR Codes, Types, Applications and their Role in Connected Packaging. We're running a little bit late, so I'm just going to do a 60-second break. Just stay online. See you soon.